Welcome, everyone. All right, my name is Brendan Curry. I am the Director of Audience for the New Bedford Light. And I'd like to welcome you all to the 12th in-person meeting of the Bedford Fine Arts Club here at the Wamsutta Club. We have an incredibly talented batch of artists, as well as a special guest at the end, John Point, who makes some incredible handcrafted embroidery that I'm sure you're going to be impressed with later. So I know I'm very excited to hear unique stories of how these artists discover their passions, what inspires them creatively, and how they make these incredible works of art a reality. But first, a little bit about The Light. As a free, nonprofit, nonpartisan online news outlet, we are dedicated to informing readers about important issues in Greater New Bedford. We were not tracking down landlords for stories on rising rents, uncovering what led to the demise of the Star Store, putting in public records requests about police misconduct, or shedding light on the inner workings of the waterfront. We strive to celebrate the cultural richness that makes this area such a special place. And that's what brings us here to the Fine Arts Club. Inspired by the Detroit Fine Arts Breakfast Club, we offer a place for artists to gather, share their experiences, and give a peek into their process. And of course, hopefully sell some art. Everything you see tonight is for sale. That means you can take home anything that stirs your spirit, just talk to the artist after the presentation, or use the contact information in your programs. And we hope you stick around after the presentations for the afterglow, which is your chance to talk to the artist one-on-one. Now let's welcome our hosts, both talented artists in their own rights. Scott Bishop is a musician, songwriter, and sound sculptor, creating music under the name Scapegoat. His latest release is Basementscapes Volume 1, a set of 9 sonic landscapes. He also curates 2 ongoing music series, the Seaport Sessions for AHA New Bedford and Unexpected Music. In addition to his music work, Scott hosts and moderates the co-creative sessions and is a contributor to the In Focus podcast for the Artist Index. He has a BA in illustration from the Savannah College of Art and Design. Devin Leved McLaughlin is a multifaceted artist based in New Bedford. He uses an array of styles and mediums in his art, ranging from classical to abstract. Native to South Coast New England, he finds an endless source of inspiration in the surrounding mix of post-industrial cities, rural landscapes, and the Atlantic. Leved's passions lie in connecting and developing creative communities and cultivating an appreciation for the arts. He is frequently involved in teaching painting workshops and educating individuals through schools, museums, and private instruction. And I'll hand it off to Leved and Scott.
Thank you so much, Brendan. So, welcome everybody. Thank you. Welcome everybody. We are here for the New Bedford Fine Art Club. We are going to be hearing from a lot of different artists from different disciplines, and our theme this month is going to be places and spaces. So that's the general theme for most of the artwork that you will see tonight. I will be up here with the artists. I'm going to be taking chair 1, the artist will be taking chair 2, and the artwork will be on display right behind me. It will also be on display on our projector over there. So if you can't see anything up close, just take a gander over there and we'll take a better look at what you have. Also, if you feel like you can't see artwork as it's going up and going around, don't worry, because we're going to have an afterglow at the end. When all the artists have spoken and had a little bit of time to take some questions, we will be able to walk around, you'll be able to meet the artist, and if you're interested in purchasing any work, you can do it directly from them. All right. Artists will be able to have 5 minutes to talk about 2 pieces of artwork. There will be time for questions and answers, either during their set, or you can talk to them later. And if you need to ask a question, or you want to kind of interact with the artist, just raise your hand, and Scott here will come around with a mic, and Scott's also going to be taking track of the time. So that timer, when that goes off that little beep, 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 that means that the artist should wrap it up and make way for the next one. So, if we could put our hands together, the first person that we're going to be having up here is Stephen Ashley. So Stephen, and I would like to just remind everybody, 2 quick things. First, silence your phones. That way we don't have any interruptions. These are recorded and they're going to be going on the New Bedford Lights website. And another thing, if you get the mic, make sure you're talking directly into it. It's a little bit hard to hear. Try raising your hand and asking the question and talking into the mic, because if you ask a question off mic, we won't hear it on the recording. Sound good, yes? Yes. All right. Thank you. And take it away.
Is this on? Can you hear me? Yes, no?
I think we can hear you.
Hear
I don't think it's not on.
Phil Shattuck can't hear me, but no one can.
Switch his mic. Switch the other one's louder. The one the US got.
Sorry, hello, none? Okay now? Okay. I feel like Alistair Cook in this chair. And if you know who Alistair Cook is, you're... Anyway, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. It's real nice to be here. But most especially thanks to the New Bedford Light for creating this opportunity, not only the Fine Arts Club, but the whole enterprise of the journalism that it's doing. And create your own opinion about this, but I think it creates a real sense of community when you have journalism like that is doing what it's doing, and you can read it and feel good about it or react to it in some way. And also, it's a community that my partner and I, Rebecca Eden, now call our home. We have a home in Westport, and so we are, one way or another, settled here in Westport, and so this is our home. I'm also a member of the Board of Trustees of DATMA. You might not know that name, but it is the Design Art Technology Institute of Massachusetts. And I'm privileged to serve on the Board of Trustees. And it allows me to actually see the energy and enthusiasm that goes into building a community and creating the kind of work that you see. Some of you might know the door in Courthouse Square that was up last year, and it is now the symbol, if you will, of New Bedford. That was brought to you by DATMA. And Gil Mandel is here representing DATMA as well. So when the club put out the call for the spaces and places, I felt like I had to just kind of go through all of my stuff, photographing the town around Westport. It just made sense for me to dig into it and see what was there. And what I have here are just two examples. But by way of a brief bio about who I am, what I'm doing here, I had been a photographer in my hometown of Toledo, Ohio, until I got a job at the local PBS station. 50 years later, I'm now re-engaging with photography. I retired a couple of years ago, and I'm finding photography still calling me. So, the photos I have here tonight are from a batch I've taken in recent months. One in particular, this one, Shed, is from a series I've taken along East Beach Road in Westport. And if you don't know it, the road runs along a strip of land that in years past was home to the summer campers and their mobile homes, their RVs, and what have you. And in its full glory, I thought it was kind of a magical, if slightly nonconformist, maybe a little weird piece of real estate. But the storms in the last year, this past winter, ravaged the place and took a huge toll on it. And I just thought it became kind of my catalyst to kind of get back into photography, landscape photography in particular. The beach is devastated. If you haven't seen it, you should take a look. But maybe more to the point, you can read all about it in the New Bedford Light. They have fairly extensive journalism about it. In any event, the beach, as I say, became sort of my re-engagement with photography, and it allowed me to discover the new rules and methods and disciplines of digital photography, because when I had left it 50 years ago, it was still film, and it was still in darkroom and printing and all that kind of stuff. 50 years on, it's all Photoshop and computers, and it's a very different medium. So I find myself right now sort of in the crossroads between old-fashioned film photography blended with digital photography and computers. I'm still a student in it, I would say. Anyway, it's I'm discovering that my joys here are landscape photography, black and white, some architecture work, and that's what these represent. So the one here is from East Beach. That's the Shed looking out across East Beach Road. And then this one over here, I'm immodest enough to say that that's a view from our house looking out over the east branch of the Westport River. And to be completely candid about it, it was taken with an iPhone. So for those of you who are photographers know that it's almost slightly embarrassing to admit that you take pictures, serious pictures with an iPhone, but I have to say, it taught me a lot about how to process digital images, what you can do with them, and it's a marked difference from the work I used to do, which was view camera work and 4x5s and 8x10s. Anyway, it is my entry point into this world of photography, digital and otherwise. So, there's my 5-minute cue. Am I supposed to go to the bar? Pretty good.
Oh, we're down to
Q&A?
Q&A. So, if anybody has any questions, now would be a great time. So I'm just going to speak loud. Can you all hear me? Yes, okay, great. So one question that I was going to have for you, you talked a lot about the difference between the film and the digital photography and your journey with that. Do you feel like the world is going to continue going towards the digital? Do you feel like film is going to be lost to the wayside, or that it'll always have a place?
I have a feeling it'll always have a place. Just because, the same way etching has a place, or oil painting, or any of these old, what we think of as old master techniques, there's always going to be some sort of cohort of people who are going to say, no, I still do it in the old-fashioned way, and it creates this kind of result. I have a feeling it's digital is dominant already, but I have a feeling there will always be those Fahrenheit 4x1 types that will just kind of always be doing the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, there's still people engraving on zinc plates and all.
Yeah,
definitely going to see people doing stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, we're going to be switching artists right now. So our next is going to be Donna Gagnon from Dartmouth. So we're going to switch the artwork out. It's going to take a couple of minutes, but we should be ready to go.
And this one's working again. So it's quieter than the
And if everybody could welcome Donna, thank you.
Is it on? Yes.
It's on. We actually have working mics now.
Yay. Right. So, has anybody noticed the light in this area? That's what really strikes me, is the light we have down here. I didn't realize it until I had moved away for a while with my husband, Ron. And when we moved back to take care of my parents, because they were getting older, he said, the light, it's so bright down here. It's like southern France. And I went, I like that. But we do have such a lively community of artists down here and musicians. And I'm wondering if that's part of the attraction. Well, besides the wonderful city we have here. But I really love the light and the contrast, which I try to capture in these paintings. Like the sunsets and the sunrises. They're just amazing to me. Mother Nature's free show every day. This one here, we were in Falmouth, right across the street. And every night, it was November, and it was cold, like today. And I said, it's the sunset, I'll be back. And I ran across the street with my camera, and I was freezing, my hands were frozen, but I took skiddly million photos, and then I did this back home. And we got back, and it's just one of my favorite views. And the other one is a sunrise, and it's more gentle than the sunsets to me. It's just like, coming into the, and that was, I was walking on Clark's Cove, the hurricane deck. And I saw that, and I went, whoa, look at that. So I took another skiddly million photos and painted that when I got home from my walk. It's just, I just love the sunsets and sunrises. I do a lot of commission work for pets and portraits, and I got into that working with Deborah Macy when I first moved back to the area, and she's like the best, so I figured why not start with her. So I really enjoy doing all of that. My husband takes me on mystery rides, and they're mystery to me. He knows where we're going. And he knows what I like to do, so he has all these wonderful destinations, and I get out and take pictures and do sketches and things like that. And it's been working well. He's like my muse.
So he's not bored sitting there waiting for you. He's taking you out and trying to feed your passion.
Yeah, I think he plans in ahead, but he's never told me.
Probably has a secret little notebook that he writes everything in.
Maybe.
So how did you get, so you said you started with the pet portraits and things like that. How did you transition into landscapes?
I always did them, but I was working for many years, and I didn't get back into it till I was close to retirement when I hooked up with Deb Macy. And I started doing the portraits again, but I've always loved being outside, and then I just started doing them just for fun, and then I really, really liked it. And I found that I really like painting water, which I didn't know I would do that, but I love painting water. And it's just, the light just kills me from the sunsets and the sun. Every day I'm looking at them. And I have friends that take pictures of the sunrises and the sunsets. And I'll ask them their permission, and I'll paint them sometimes too. And always give them credit.
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to ask about the medium here. So they're beautifully rendered, and to me they appear like either oils or acrylics. But,
They are acrylics. Yeah.
Acrylics. And do you ever paint on site, or do you usually? I mean, I know with the one that was in the cold, definitely you run home to the studio, and that's very understandable.
Yeah.
But do you paint on site ever?
I used to, and I found it was distracting with people talking to me, and not as good. I like to just not have music, not have talking, I just paint. So it didn't work out so well for me, but I understand how you can get the better light and do better renditions on site. And I'll do sketches on site, but I mostly do the painting in the back home, and I just remember what I saw from the sketches and my photographs.
Beautiful. Now, most of the body of your work, is it just landscapes and pet portraits? What other kind of things do you like to do?
I always say people, places, and pets, but my commissions are gone, so I don't get to show them.
It's not a bad problem to have.
Many people love their pets, especially after they're gone. And I like to meet them to get their personality.
Beautiful. All right, so you're ready to open it up for questions?
Sure.
All right. Does anybody have questions about the artwork? Anybody want to speak on it or anything like that? A quiet crowd tonight. Oh, there we go.
Okay. Oh, can you hear me?
Let me double check that. Sorry. It's on and about loud.
Okay. You ever work with oils? Because I really thought it was oils that you were using.
I started with oils, and then I started getting nervous with the chemicals and fumes
Yeah.
and things, so I migrated to acrylics, and I strive to make it look like it's oil, but it's not.
No, I love that. I do the same thing actually.
Great.
That's why I was curious.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and speaking on that, usually when you have acrylic paintings, they don't have as much of a buttery texture as your work does, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So,
Oh, thank you.
thank you so much. I encourage everybody to check these out in person at the Afterglow, and we're going to be switching the artist right now. If you have any questions, save them for the Afterglow. So, Donna, thank you so much for coming on out.
Thank you.
And our next artist up is going to be Zachary from New Bedford. All right, if everybody could welcome Zachary.
All right, so I have two of my photos. They're both from a series I did. Actually, started working on it over 10 years ago. It kind of started when I was first in undergrad, and I had a work-study job with Spinner Publications, which is a local history photo archive book publisher. And I was doing a lot of work with scanning old photos, and you started to see some that they were in New Bedford, or they're in the area, and there were nothing that was the least bit recognizable. And started to kind of look at what these spaces were, and then towards the end of undergrad, when I was developing a thesis project, I focused in on what was basically mostly 1960s and 70s during the urban renewal period in the city. And so that is what both of these come from. So like this photo here on the left, this actually, of all the pictures, it doesn't have that well. There's actually a lot of changes in it, but it doesn't seem like it. But the photos on the left in both pieces are from the archives. These are both from Spinner archives, but I also worked from a family who their father worked during urban renewal, and he had a collection of photographs as well. But both of these are from Spinner. So the photos on the left, they're both circa 1970 approximately, prior to Route 18 being built. And so here, this bigger one here, we have what was the Unemployment Career Center in Acushnet Ave. And at the time, there was also houses and businesses along Acushnet Ave. And then right around the period, shortly after this photo was taken, most of those were cleared out, and Route 18 was built, which is, and now, actually in both cases, both the photos will be changing again, or are in the process of changing with the new pedestrian bridge that will be going in. And then this second photo, the narrower one, that one is so land has already been cleared, so this whole area would have been full of, again, houses and businesses that were then cleared, and Route 18 was constructed. And so the one on the right, aside from some of the houses that you see on the left, some of them are still there, but then on the right, the only thing that is left is the Wamsutta Mills. The mill, the foreground was torn down shortly after the photo was taken.
So you have quite a few of these from the series, right?
Yeah. So it was a full series, actually. They're in a book. So it was, there's probably about 100 or so that I did. There's still many more that I'm hoping to work on. But yeah, it was, because in some of the instances, like if there were a photo of the same area of this photo on the right, the land was totally changed, like the slope of the land, the amount of houses that were there. So it's like, those two areas that look, relatively similar. It's a clear path. But when you see even before that, it's a big drastic change. So, like, the project was really just trying to catalog. It's sort of a before and after. It's the simplest, but it's really a little bit more than that. Just the idea of cataloging what was there, what is there now, and the stories behind, the people who lived there and that worked there.
Do you, so on a more personal level, when you are documenting these things and you're taking a look at the archived photos and the ones that you're taking now, is it more of an interest of what was or what will be?
In some of the cases, it's like the photos, like these two photos, there's nothing overly impressive in either of the photos, but in some cases it was a really prominent building or structure is there and now it's different or gone. In other cases, it's a really bland, not much to look at photo, and the picture with it is sometimes also just as bland, but other times it's, a nice composition and just more of the story behind it than the visual aspect.
Do you have people, so a lot of times when you have landscapes, when you have things where you're looking back into the past and now in the future, there are people who've been there and have seen the transition firsthand. Do you end up getting any kind of strong reactions from your pieces?
Yeah, there's been quite a few people who, they talk about, especially, like this area would have been a combination of businesses and houses, but some of the areas were totally residential, and now they're industrial. So there was like people's homes, either they knew the people who lived there, and then kind of their house was taken, bought, torn down, and made a highway or a parking lot or what have you.
Awesome, great. And I just want to recap for anybody who is interested. All the prices are listed in the paper that you have there. So the first one here is $180, and this one's $220. And does anybody have any questions about these beautiful pieces? All right, thank you so much, Zach. And we're going to be switching off to the next artist. So thank you so much, Zach. Our next artist is John Jameson. All right, if we could all welcome John. Woo.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
So these are my landscape paintings. In my landscape work, what I tend to focus on is like really tactile, sensate feelings of the human body and nature. And what I like to do is use kind of the qualities of oil paint, which are really diverse and numerous, that so you can capture how the body feels when you're in the environment. So I like the idea of rocks feeling rough against the skin, and I like the idea of, you know, if there's water, what's the character of that water? What would it feel to touch the water? How is the water different from the sky? Things like that. I don't know if that sounds strange, but I find it's a very inspiring thing that, like, in a time that we might feel as though the digital world is taking over, it's nice to reconnect with how nature feels and kind of center oneself. I think that's a good thing to do and a good practice. You know, I had a lot of thoughts in my head, and I'm just like, oh, 5 minutes. So generally what I like to do is I either have a feeling that it's just that feeling of a present place and moment in time, and then other times I have something that feels much more like a narrative, and I like the idea of weaving that in and out. These two don't have people, so they're a little bit more straightforward, but this one, for example, is a little bit more of a narrative. I've titled it Precarious. I've always thought that the houses on stilts are really beautiful in a lot of ways, and also they kind of make me a little bit anxious. So I feel like I don't like being doom and gloom, but for this piece, I sort of like the idea of playing with both something peaceful and serene, but also a little bit dark and a little bit uncomfortable, but not so uncomfortable that you can't bear to look at it any longer than 5 seconds, you know, something like that. And I find the rainbow piece is much more jubilant. I particularly am interested in atmosphere with landscape paintings, and I know that this has to do with just about everyone's work here, but I always find an interesting thing, and you know this because you paint landscapes too, but like with landscape painting, you're not just painting the objects, but you're also painting the air that is between the viewer and the object, you know, atmospheric perspective. And I find an interesting thing, an interesting challenge I was having with the rainbow piece is that it's not just that you're painting the air in between the viewer and the distant shore, but also that the rainbow itself is a projection onto the humidity in the air. I thought that was an interesting spatial thing. So, yeah, it's been nice.
These are great. So, for those that don't know, when you paint these, are you on location? Are you in the studio? Do you work from photos? What's your process for this?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. I wasn't sure how I was going to segue into that. So I paint outside often, but these two are studio paintings. I do a lot of sketching outdoors. I do a lot of color studies and things like that. And some things are finished outdoors. I find things that are larger, I've done large paintings outside before, but they just become kind of sails and they just carry me away. And also, it's been a long time since I've done a large painting outside that I felt like happy showing it to someone. Whereas I sort of like the idea of having, not necessarily 2 bodies of work, but we'll just say like 2 bodies of work that I have some things that feel much more spontaneous and in the moment, and I feel like working in that fashion gives myself the clarity and memory of like that sensate feeling that I say is important about these. I have that memory, so when I'm working from drawings and photos and like combining photos and things like with these two, I have a better headspace for that. So I have some work that's outside. These two are from photos and drawings.
And when you are finding your scene, your location, what you're going to be painting and planning it out, do you go into it with I have to find a house on stilts, or do you go into it with I'm going to explore and see what jumps out at me, or is it kind of a combination?
Totally a combination. Sometimes I have a little bit of premeditation, but mostly I'll do a lot of drawings and I'll take a lot of photos, and I have a lot of junk drawings, and I have millions of junk photos, and sometimes I don't realize it's a good one until like a couple months later, and so then you find something that works, and then you could find things that maybe don't work, and you can edit things out and stuff. So.
You have to fail a million times before you find your success.
Of course.
All right, so let's open it up for questions. Do you have any questions about the artwork or comments or anything where people want to speak with the artist real quick? All right, there we go. We got one.
Thank you.
You're welcome, John. Can people hear me? Okay. How long does it take you to do one of these? I always wondered that when I saw your show, Co-Creative.
Pretty long time. The faster turnarounds for my oil paintings is usually about like 3 or 4 months, but I usually have just a lot of them going simultaneously, anywhere between like 10 to 30, which sounds crazy, but like the rainbow one is about on and off like 3 years, but like I'm doing other things. If I only did one painting every 3 years, ooh, that's slow.
You get bored of that one for a while.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you for asking.
Yeah, that makes me feel a lot better, actually. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, John.
Thank you for having me.
Our next artist is going to be Blaine. I'm going to say your name wrong, like I said before.
Bakiaki.
Bakiaki. All right, Blaine Bakiaki, everybody. And if everybody could welcome Blaine. Beautiful watercolors.
Oh, thank you. I should talk into the microphone. Hi, I'm Blaine. I have been an artist for many years. I work in many mediums. This is a portion of my watercolors. I only really paint watercolors when it's nice outside. I do lots of different kinds of work, so I might look like I'm like 5 different artists in a trench coat. I've been painting this kind of like alla prima on plein air watercolors since I was in school back in 2008 when I studied abroad in Italy. And I enjoy it. It's something that I can do and not really think too much about it. I really like finding a place where I can just kind of sit and be for a little while, because I know that whatever I make in that moment won't be touched again. So that's really important to me. Like it is alla prima. It is right then and there, and I will not touch it when I get up and move. I will probably work on maybe 3 to 4 at a time in those moments, because I do want to let the bottom layer dry and then go back on top. So maybe it's not 100% alla prima, but I think so.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Could you tell everybody what All Appeal
Oh,
and
all at
Panera is?
once, all at once, and outside, basically,
Thank you.
in the fresh air. So yeah, I like finding the in between realism and abstraction. We know that these are of our local landscape because we are used to our local landscape, but people that aren't from here probably don't know that this is Buzzards Bay. I really enjoy painting rocks. These are a series of rocks these are like 7 years apart, actually. They don't look that far apart from my perspective, but they are. And I enjoy the shapes, I enjoy the colors, I enjoy how they play off of each other. I enjoy the spaces between, like John said. And I really enjoy the movement that watercolor brings to a painting. It allows me to be more free and not as tight with my work. I do work in other mediums where I am working very tightly. And so this is, it's just fun. I don't know what else to say about them.
I'll
thank
ask
you.
questions, man. These are fantastic. Both of them are beautiful watercolors, and I encourage everybody to take a close look at these when they get a chance. The reclamation one, I have some questions about that.
Sure.
First, the title of it, it seems like it has a deeper meaning, so I'd like you to dig into that. And the other thing I wanted to ask about is you talked about putting your base layers down first and letting them dry. When you do that, do you let the watercolor do what it needs to do? How much control do you have, or how much freedom do you give the paint itself?
I control it a little bit. So there'll be moments, so kind of like in the background on the vertical painting, I do like a base wash, and then I'll let it dry like a little bit, and then I'll add some stuff to it. Maybe I'll blot some stuff, because I want it, it's like controlled chaos. I want to get that kind of wet on wet movement, but also like not make it muddy and a mess at the same time. So a little bit, it's a little back and forth, both, all. Reclamation. Okay, so I'm terrible at naming things, and I oftentimes when I'm out painting, I will try and find areas that that like things that were built by people years and years ago that have now been reclaimed by nature to a certain extent. I do have a couple other pieces in the back, if we want to look at them later, of more like building type things that have been reclaimed by nature. And actually it's really funny, both of these paintings, even though they were 7 years apart, I painted them in the same place. Nice. So like that wall is behind that shore. It's a little beach down at the end of Sconneck Road in Fairhaven. A family friend of mine lives down there, and he's also a watercolor painter, and he lets me use this beach occasionally to go paint. And yeah. Did you have any other questions? Oh, never mind.
Perfect. Well, let's see if the crowd has any questions. Oh, we got a few out there. I see 2 out there right now.
Okay.
It's going just really low. Just yell.
Well, anyway, do any of your paintings inspire you to do a studio, a bigger one of the same thing?
No.
Ah, okay.
I don't. It's very much about space, place, and time. For me, it defeats the purpose if I'm working in the studio on a landscape painting, because I can't see the landscape. I don't get that same experience while painting. So I really only paint when it's nice out and when I'm somewhere else. So I do have paintings from travels, and then just other spots around the Buzzards Bay area.
Thank you.
I think we have one more question.
You were saying it's El Primo, and I understand that, but when you say you don't touch it anymore, you put it on and you touch it no more. It is what it is.
So like once I decide that I'm done painting for the day, I don't touch the painting again.
Oh, cool beans.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So there's no going back in the studio afterwards.
All right. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, our next artist up is going to be Kate Fraser-Rigo from New Bedford. Everyone welcome Kate.
Is this on? Oh, okay, look at that.
Good.
All right, and now for something completely different. Thank you guys for having me here tonight. So the work that we are looking at right now is more an exploration of like inner landscape and inner space than actual physical, tangible space. A lot of the work that I'm exploring now asks the question, how do you speak to the quietest places within yourself? And I ask you that question today. I mean, how many of us have lost ourselves in our phones today? More people are going to be raising their hands, let's be honest. And at this moment in time, at this zeitgeist that we live in, the digital space is huge, and we get lost in it often, and we don't talk to those quiet places within us. And when we stop, we can get lost. So the work that I am exploring right now asks that question, and they are artifacts pulled from that inner space. I think I should open that up for questions.
Yeah, I mean, so let's do this, because I think these are both pretty cerebral works. So if anybody has a question, even during the conversation, just raise your hand, interrupt us, like let it go. Sound good? Yes? Good. All right. So these, and both of them are pretty amazing. Skywoman Dreams of Grassman. That's the blue one you have there. I'm curious as to how, you're talking about looking within yourself. How do you translate that kind of abstract thought into a physical painting or composition?
That's a really good question. So a lot of times when I am exploring this idea, I'm really tapping into a lot of that like inner noise and that inner imagery. Some of us might call that our inner child. Some of us might call that like our inner voice. And a lot of tapping into that space speaks to the youngest places within ourselves. Those places that we form some of our most formative memories, our closest connections, and exploring those ideas has really kind of made characters come to the forefront, very, very much like mythology. I think that there's a lot of world building happening in this exploration. There's a lot of storytelling happening in this exploration. A lot of my work is, the older work is very narrative based, and now I'm just building a narrative that is entirely my own and no one else's. So the archetypes that you see, like Skywoman, like Grassman, like Whisperman, are coming from places that are more elemental, more primitive. Things like the sky, the ground, whispers and secrets that are shared between people, and some of those conversations that are had there. All of that is within the work and within this space that ends up being called the void.
I'm obsessed with these pieces, honestly. They're very interesting, and I mean, even just composition-wise, with this one here, the blue one, you have the two shapes which feel like eyes, and then you start looking deeper into it when you make that connection. You start seeing a nose and a mouth, and then you realize one of the eyebrows is also a silhouette, and you have that profile of a woman's face, and then it changes a little bit. And the longer you spend with a piece like this, the more you start discovering, and you're forced to look within when you're doing this. It's very interesting.
I'm hoping that as the viewer takes in the work, that they are, as well as interacting with the work, they're interacting with themselves. They're questioning what they're looking at, they're questioning the text that they're reading, they're questioning the imagery that they're reading. Obviously the images and symbolism means something to me, but I am choosing imagery and symbolism that can hopefully connect in multiple ways to many of us and help us connect to our own stories as well as my own.
So before the timer goes, can you tell us a little bit about It's a Story, the specifics on that one?
Yeah, so It's a Story is from a whole series called Ghosts that has to do a lot with not only like the imagery that you're seeing in the void, but a lot of the conversations and like audible noise in the void. It's a Story is the title, and it asks that question, like, is it a story? What do we tell ourselves? What are the stories that we're telling ourselves? The smaller piece is an original, the larger piece is an original, and I also have a number of prints if anyone is interested in looking at any more of the work.
And you said you brought a bunch of prints, so at the After Glow, we can take a look at that.
Yes, yes,
and
thank you so much.
Does anybody have any questions before we switch over? Oh, we got one back there.
We're down a mic.
Do you find that your work, that you're getting lost in yourself, do you make them in a spirit of improvisations, spontaneity, or is it more of a calculated and like orchestrated effort?
Good question, John. Thank you. I think it is both. I think that there are moments within the studio that I kind of really dig into the process, and some of the works are very quick and intuitive, and there are other works that more like the sculpture works that tend to be bigger, the installation work tends to be bigger, the performance work takes longer, and all of that tends to be more planned out. But so there's a bit of both.
Awesome. And if anybody wants to take a look at more of that work, it's listed in the brochure, so please take a look at the social media and website links. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Our next artist is Elise Lorella out of Mattapoisett. Are you nervous?
Can you tell?
I am. I'm nervous. All right, let's go. Everyone, welcome Elise.
That's my little human right there who's getting crackers all over, so if someone needs me to help sweep, I'll do that later. I'm not about that. So yeah, I'm Elise. I love actually learning that this is kind of based on something from Detroit. I grew up in Metro Detroit, actually, so that was really cool to hear. I lived there through middle school, and then it kind of got rough in the area we were living, so we moved out. But I originally was an academic. I moved out to New England because I got accepted to a PhD program at URI and with a teaching position, and was an academic for a long time. And I love the theme of this Fine Arts Club because the bulk of my work was Irish and British literature based on space and place and how places influence us, affect who we are. And yeah, so when I moved out here, I found home, but I still wasn't quite settled. And I went through a big life change, and so there's a lot of emotion actually in my artwork. It's very emotional work. I didn't expect to become a single mom and go through a big change with that. And so when I was moving down this way, I was working down here in education, and I was looking for places to live, and I got involved with the Co-Creative Center as a space to work because I'd always done art on the side and as a hobby, but with the birth of my son, I started to do more with that and try to make it more into a business. And I was really inspired by everything here in New Bedford, the harbor, the boats, the sense of community, the artistic spirit here. And I found an apartment in Mattapoisett. It's small, but my son and I feel really safe and at home and comfortable. And so there's a lot of everything about my work is locally inspired, basically. And really too, just also finding, after going through a lot of dark times, finding a sense of peace and calm that we've been searching for a long time. And a chosen family here in a way. I have a lot of friends through the Co-Creative Center and people in the community, and then love my son and I. And it's just, so that's everything that goes into my work, basically. And I'm getting nervous now, so I'm hoping you're gonna ask me some questions.
I can, yeah. So you were talking about how these are emotional pieces. These are pieces where you had, you can tell by looking at them that there is some strife in there, and that there's calm places and some chaos in there. How do you take that emotion and transfer it into a seascape or a painting or an abstract?
Yeah, so that's a great question, thank you. Yeah, it's weird. I've always been drawn to the sea, and I have a lot of dreams about ocean and the water. Like before I even, growing up in Michigan, I don't know, there was just something about this. And when I moved out here, I like boats. I don't have a boat, but there's something about being on the water where you just feel free, and I get that. And maybe one day I will get to afford sailing lessons and try to be on the water more. But yeah, it's more of what I'm thinking about at the time, really. So this was my first for this series of work, which I'm going to have my first solo art gallery exhibition at the Co-Creative Center on May 9th. Putnam Murdoch is my musician. This was my first one because I was still going through a lot of grief and despair, so I tried to really captivate that with a lot of the darkness, but I could see finally a lot of calm and light based through the community, my work in art, and the fact that that was actually starting to take off more. I teach watercolor classes, as well as some acrylic classes, and so that was taking off, and I was able to put that emotion to a piece. So each piece really just kind of has like a different mood or something I'm going through that's reflected in it. And this one particularly was inspired by Mattapoisett, and just really my son and I take walks a lot, and we go on hikes in the area, and just, it's so calm and peaceful, and I can't explain it. It's just when we're out walking, everything feels like it's going to be okay around there. So yeah, I put a lot of that in there.
That's gorgeous. I have to ask, do you have an artist that gives you any inspiration that you draw a lot from? Because for me, man, these are giving Turner vibes. They're gorgeous.
Oh yeah. I look at a lot of different work, basically, and I'm inspired locally, and I don't know how to explain it. It's just, I wouldn't say there's one artist. I would say it's a lot of the local artists here, like John Jameson is kind of inspires me. And
you should meet your heroes.
Yes, right. I told him that once at the cookery. But no, I just look at a lot of artists and artwork. I also have my grandfather was a violinist and painter, and so he was a source of inspiration, even though he's not the nicest human being. But yeah, so it's really just any artist that I see that does something with water or boats and serene colors, moody colors, and just kind of drawn to. There's not one artist specifically, honestly. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We're going to open up, if there's any questions, we have time for one. Oh, we got one back there. I'm going to walk. It's my mic that works. Here we go.
It's really not a question. I just wanted to let you know they're beautiful, and I really do feel your passion. As soon as I saw them in the catalog, I love them, and I actually want to buy them.
Oh, wow. All right. Okay, you can do my name.
before you stow it away and take it off, everybody should get a look at this one up close, especially because the printouts don't do the colors justice. Elise, thank you so much for coming up. Thank you for showing your work, everybody. Thank you. Our next artist up is going to be Autumn Lee Sear.
Feels like a big chair.
Is it comfy?
Yeah, actually, it's remarkable.
Very good. Everyone, welcome Autumn.
Hello. My name's Autumn. I'm an artist and musician in New Bedford from the area. I don't normally do landscapes, but they are a nice kind of break. It's a good study. I just did these based off of photos that I had taken on travels with my band. So, yeah, this first one is a lake in New York where lots of shenanigans ensued. It's a very happy, fun, relaxing, beautiful place. And that is the view from the deck on a beautiful sunrise. Favorite thing about this place is there is a train sound that goes off every few hours, but it's like a steam locomotive. It's pretty sweet. This other one is also from upstate New York. It is a pastel illustration from a mountain hike in winter. And if you're trying to climb up a mountain with regular sneakers on and it's just ice, it's not the safest route to take, but it is gorgeous because the sun just reflects these beautiful colors off of the ground, but you will fall and hurt yourself. And your truck will be stuck in the ice and you can't get out, so some nice lady has to call her Connecticut friends to drive up 2 hours to tow you out until they almost get stuck. And then you're all screaming at the truck owner, your friends who you love dearly, for getting you stuck in the ice and thinking it was a good idea to go hiking in the middle of winter. Happy time.
I mean, you got some good paintings out of it.
Oh,
or
yeah,
artworks out of it. So when you're doing your work, do you often work from things that have fond memories for you?
It's a mix of the two. So with landscapes, I guess my regular work is more geared towards mental health struggles, societal struggles. What I'm really passionate about is telling you things that I can't necessarily say with words. I'm not the best person with words, so when I have an opportunity to show you what I mean, that's what I use art for a lot of the time. So landscapes for me are usually more geared to study and understanding space, but they're also kind of a nice break from all the hard stuff that I put myself through all the time. So it's a good venue.
Yeah. With your different mediums here, and all the mediums that you do, what's your background with the art? How did you get into art in general, or what led you to the place that you are now as an artist?
I can't afford therapy.
Art supplies are expensive too, though.
It's that, or yeah, no, that's where it goes. Really, I'd rather do that.
That's great. So, were you self-taught? Did you go to school for it? What's the
So I
background?
did. I graduated from Greater New Bedford Regional Vocational Technical High School from the visual design, and I kind of had to catch up because I was in culinary the first year, so I had to teach myself everything there, and then I just went on to keep teaching myself more stuff, and I just always want to learn and do more things. It's a curse and a blessing. I'm just like, man, I love pastels, but now I love acrylics. Ooh, let me touch oils. Can't use oils anymore because I have no ventilation in my house, so.
Yeah, if anybody's ever used oils, they're not fun when you have closed rooms.
Yeah, I was getting lightheaded pretty fast.
So you switch around between your favorite mediums. Do you ever have kind of a rut that you get stuck in where you're just on one medium?
So actually the problem that I do have is being a musician and a visual artist and doing all sorts of things, because I dabble in graphic design and I love combining the two, but sometimes I will be so into music that I'm like not motivated to paint or do anything, but I have to because it is my livelihood. So that's the biggest struggle, is I don't get caught between mediums, I get caught between like two different things entirely.
Do you find that when you're doing the music that you're at least being inspired to do the art? Because it seems like both of these paintings were from your journeys with your band.
Oh yeah, no, like the ideas are always here. That's why I'm just constantly writing everything down. I'm like, oh, this is dope. This would be a cool painting. This would be a cool song. Whatever.
Love it. So I'm gonna say we can open it up for questions. But I also one last thing for me is if you have anything coming up, because you do have your band and you have your
Can I shamelessly plug my band right now?
Anybody can plug, absolutely. Go for it.
So I have a band, we're called Starbath. If you're into alternative rock, shoegaze, hardcore, we're going to be recording an album on Sunday, so look forward to that. Follow on Instagram, all that jazz.
Awesome. And any questions from the group? Oh, we got someone over there. I'm going to come to you with the mic. Because it works.
It's not so much a question, it is to say hi, Autumn.
Hi, I love you.
I love
So
you
good
too.
to see you.
Yes, and I just want to say Autumn is a dynamite young lady, an amazing artist.
Stop.
I just want to say that.
Anyone else while I'm out here in the crowd? No? All right. Autumn, thank you so much for coming up. Everybody give a round for Autumn. Thank you for having me. All right. Our final artist of the night is our special guest, David Poyant. We're going to display 4 works of his. We're going to put 2 up, and then we're going to switch them out. And we even have an example piece of his work to walk around so that it can be seen nice and close by the crowd. So David, here we go. So Scott will be walking around with a work in progress, WIP, work in progress, of David's work. So I encourage you guys to take a close look because right now these look like photographs or paintings, but they are not. David, take it away.
Well, no, they're all hand embroidery. It's all done 1 stitch at a time. And I started out about 3 years ago. This is, I kind of joke around saying this is what COVID did to me. So I started, originally I was working at Lowe's at the time. And I was doing some portrait paintings, and whether it was good or not, they started to become photorealistic to the point where one of the kids at work had asked me to do a painting of his son that was just born, and comes up to me, I gave it to him, I was always giving these things away, and so he comes up to me about 3-4 weeks later and he says, look, I don't want you to get mad, but was that a photograph or was that a painting? So I kind of took it the wrong way, you know, and I said, no, it's definitely a painting. But that night I went home, kind of got rid of all my paints and my paintbrushes, and I said, okay, if they can't tell the difference between a painting or a photograph, I'm going to do it in another medium and see if I can get the thread paintings to be photorealistic. And that's kind of where I am now. I think I've gotten it to the point where they're pretty much photorealistic. And so it's right, like I said, I started about 3 years ago, so it's a fairly new, venture for me. My wife thinks I'm completely out of my mind, and we just kind of take it from there. We've been married 45 years. I love her. She thinks I'm nuts, and sometimes I think she's nuts, and that's kind of where we stand.
So, can you talk about the pieces that we have up now? And like I said, guys, we're going to switch over and we'll talk about another two. You have 5 minutes to these, 5 minutes to the others. And also, I know a little bit, but can you tell us about how long these take to make and what your process is?
On average, most of my pieces will take me about 40 hours to complete. There's a website out there called Unsplash, and it's photographers from all over the world, and they give you free access to their photographs. So most of the time what I'll end up doing is going on to Unsplash, find a picture. Both of these came from Unsplash. Quick story about the bridge. I get a lot of people asking me, where is that bridge? Is that a real bridge? And so I didn't know where it was or where it came from. And right now I've got a show going on at the New Bedford Art Museum, and a gentleman came in, and I was showing him that piece there, and he says, "Oh, that's the Moniz Bridge in France." And I said, "Okay, great. Now I know where it is." A couple of people walked in like right after him and confirmed it. We were talking, the 4 of us, and they confirmed it. And then, about a half hour later, another gentleman came in and said, "Oh, no, absolutely, that is not the Moniz Bridge." So it had a name for a half an hour. So right now I'm at the point where I don't know where that is anymore, but I'm hoping that it's the Moniz Bridge, but I don't know. And then I like the effect of the reflections. Both of these here have the reflections on them. That one has the bottom half of the bridge, and this one here was the clouds. So I like that effect. One of the pieces that we're going to be bringing up, in the future, is an eagle coming down that its talons are touching the water, and you can see the eagle reflected in the water. So I personally like that effect. So a few of my pieces, have that look to them.
What helps you choose what you're going to be embroidering, putting it together? What's your process for choosing your subject matter?
It's all in finding a photo that you like. There isn't. I don't have the background that the majority of you people over here have. The art background, going to school, studying, and that stuff. And so I just find a piece that I like and go from there.
We're going to switch. Keep talking.
Okay. This one here, the whale breaching, was actually done with AI. So I opened up the program, told them I wanted a whale breaching in front of a whaling boat, and that was the picture that they came up with. And so like I said, I kind of look for things that have a lot of color, that's bright. The eagle that has all, I wasn't sure how that one was going to come out because it had so many colors in it, but after I started working on it, I was happy with it.
And you had mentioned that a lot of people ask about the back of the paintings, the back of the artworks.
Yeah.
So you want to talk a little bit about that? Well, and if everybody can take a look here, you can see it's It's the part where you use
that just comes out automatically as you're doing the piece, as you're stitching. I kind of tell the story. My mother passed away 40 years ago. But one of the things that I remember about her is she was sitting in her chair, just kind of, you know, she would have all her threads and yarn and everything else right on the side of her. And she would just be kind of sitting there doing this, watching Johnny Carson on TV. And she'd stay up until, you know, the Johnny Carson show ended, and then she'd be finished. But that's one thing that's always kind of locked in my mind, that you know, she was always working on something, whether it was embroidery, whether it was knitting, crocheting, knitting, you know, she was always doing something. So my wife, I've got a raised ranch at home, so I do my work down cellar, and you know, she's upstairs watching her housewives shows. And at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, she'll yell downstairs and she'll go, you know, Dot, I'm going to bed. My mother's name was Dorothy. So I've become my mother in this whole period. So it's, you know, like I said, I'm having fun with it. She, you know, love my wife, but she doesn't quite understand what I'm doing, but you know, it's been fun.
Yeah. So when you are doing the work, do you feel like you kind of get into the groove? Do you zone out and just keep going? Does it become automatic for you, or is it one of those things where you have to be really meticulous because they do seem ridiculously detailed?
That's kind of the funny thing, you know, when I talk to different people about it. I really don't put any thought behind it. You know, it's not, you know, as it's coming out, I don't take anything apart. I don't stress about whether it's coming out good or not. You know, if you know, I kind of do one piece at a time. It's, you know, like I said, this one here, I wasn't sure how it was going to come out, but about halfway through, I decided I liked it. But no, to say that there's a lot of thought that goes behind it,
not so much.
Not so much. And you know, like I said, I never went to art school. My background is actually in shoe repair. So you know, one of the questions that I get a lot is, you know, how I get the needle through the piece and that stuff, and this is easy compared to stitching through leather. So I just kind of, you know, go down there. One of the jokes that I make quite often is, you know, BlackBerry Brandy and Netflix. You know, that's what I go downstairs with my BlackBerry Brandy and watch TV and stitch, and you know, it's, like I said, there isn't a lot of thinking that goes behind it.
I mean, you wouldn't be able to tell by looking at them. These are fantastic.
Well, that was the ultimate goal. The goal was to make them photorealistic. But now, if somebody says, you know, is that a painting or is it a, you know, photograph? You know, I'm able to say, look close. You can actually see the threads on there, and you know, you go from there.
Are you willing to take a harder question? Like, all right. So one that's a hotly debated subject right now is the use of AI artwork in physical artwork and in pieces that are displayed. Can you talk a little bit about what your opinions are on that, or what you're thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I just started doing that. This one here was the first one that I used the AI on. That was the second piece. And I don't have, you know, there's a lot of controversy that I've been hearing about, you know, a black Jesus or a black, you know, one of the AI programs isn't matching the pieces that are coming out with supposedly what the original subject matter, was. So I'm just looking for a specific look, from the piece. I like a lot of color in it. So to say that I've had any troubles with AI, I haven't.
So for you, it's just another tool.
Yeah, it's just strictly a tool.
All right. I think we can open it up for questions. Anybody has any of those? Oh.
Yeah. Thank you. My wife says the same thing. Dave, do you ever get any pushback? We're talking about hard questions that that's not art, it's craft, or because that's a really fine line.
Not really. I've got. I love my wife. We've been married for 45 years, and especially towards the beginning, she'd be upstairs, and then she'd come downstairs and kind of look over the back of the chair and look at it. And, pardon my French, but she'd look at it and goes, "That sucks," and turns around and she leaves. And it was like, okay, what's wrong with it? I couldn't, quite figure out, what I was doing wrong. But she wasn't my biggest fan, especially at the very beginning. Until in January, I took a couple of pieces into the New Bedford Art Museum. And Suzanne over there invited me to do a show up there, and that's actually ending on the 24th of this month. So we may all through January, February, and March.
So that's this weekend, no?
Yeah, this weekend.
All right, so you guys have a chance to see the stuff at the art museum?
Yeah. So, since then, she's become much more, now, she couldn't quite understand, if anybody else would be, interested in it. She thinks it's worth about $25 a piece. So, they went from $25 to, $50. And now, since they were at the museum, they've kind of, gone up a little bit more. So it's all a learning experience for me. This is all brand new to me, and I'm having fun with it, and we'll see where it takes me. But I think we got
Oh, we got some more. All right, we have a few more out here.
This is fascinating. Do you take an image and then work on top of it, or do you redraw it?
No, I work on top. Yeah.
On average, how many different colors of thread do you use per piece?
Oh, jeez. God picks the colors. So, depending on the piece, the older pieces that I did probably had, 10 to 15, colors. The newer piece, whatever I see, and they all tend to blend in together. No, I'll look, if you're doing a section that has a lot of white in it, I've used as many as 15 different shades of white, in a, to get the look that I want. So, I don't even count. I don't know.
Yeah, anybody who paints definitely knows that white is not white is not white.
Right.
We have grays and tans.
Yeah.
While I'm out here, anybody else have any questions? Oh, here we go.
It's not really a question, but I found your colors are beautiful, but when your piece that was up at the Gallery X, I was really drawn to the rocks, and it was all just gray tones, and I got up close and it was abstracted, and it was just really cool, very different from looking at it like this.
When did you go to Gallery X? Is it this show or the last show?
Within the past 2 months, I think.
Well, Zach's been very good to me. He's put up, I had brought like 10 different pieces in, and the ones that were there 2 months, he put them up 5 and 5. And so the ones that were like 2 months ago were, excuse me, what I consider, good pieces. So they're fairly, within probably the past 6 months. The stuff that's up there now, are more of my beginning pieces. So, it kind of depends on, when, what batch of, because I look at some of the stuff that's up there now, and, I can see what I would change, have changed on it if I was doing them now versus, when I started. So, like I said, I'm not sure which piece you're talking about.
There was a show that had the lionfish, but I'm looking at more plans.
Yeah. Yeah, with the parrot. Yeah, that was in the first. So that, I would say that's some of my better pieces, than what they are now. I think I have the parrot here.
So you did bring a bunch of other pieces, right?
I brought two other pieces.
Wonderful. So thank you very much, David. That's so we do have an afterglow, and that's where you guys can talk to David and take a look at these pieces up close a little bit more, see the other pieces that the artists have brought. The afterglow takes place here and over there, and if you want to get some snacks, some water, things like that, it's up. And the last thing that I would like to do, besides saying thank you to everybody for coming out, is please look at the very last page here. This last page here has 2 QR codes. One is to subscribe to the newsletter, so you know when we're going to be doing this again. And the other one is to keep the light shining. So if you want to donate, that helps us fund the kind of things that we're doing. It helps us get art exposure to artists. It helps us just keep making New Bedford a place to go to. So guys, thank you so much for coming out. I hope you had a great time. We'll see you again. Our next one's going to be in May.